Hey guys, what's up? It's munclesonkey. Welcome to another money making versus sort of thing. And today we're going to be going over what was the top rated comment in the last one, which is going to be Airuts versus Frost Dragons. And unfortunately, this is one of the higher tier money making methods. It does have fairly high requirements, especially the Airuts. However, for the future ones, feel free to suggest some of the more mid tier ones or lower tier money making methods, and I'll make sure to include some of those in future episodes of this series. Also, I'm not sure why, but I always seem to record the intros of these videos on whatever I happen to be doing while editing the video. Maybe that's not the best habit, but let's go ahead and get into this. Airuts versus Frost Dragons, see which one is better money, and of course, as always, weigh some of the pros and cons and the requirements of both of them. So first of all, we'll look at Frost Dragons, and what these require are 85 dungeoneering in order to access the resource extension to kill them, and I would also recommend that you have at least 80 attack. You should be using chaotic melee weapons if you got those while getting yourself 85 dungeoneering. However, if you don't want chaotic weapons for whatever reason, you don't want to spend the time to get them and you spent the tokens on something else, then you can use a tier 75 weapon such as a Saradomin sword, and it still works fairly well. 380k XP per hour is how much I get at Frost Dragons. However, one thing to keep in mind is I did use a yak. If you decide to use magic no paper, which are kind of inconvenient because they're very expensive and take a long time to buy, but if you're not 96 summoning, definitely use them. You won't necessarily make more money because you do have to put quite a bit of money into buying the no paper, but you will get more kills per hour because you don't have to bank, and therefore you'll get more kills and more XP per hour doing that way. This is the setup for Frost Dragons. Now, I am wearing Drygor maces. However, you're not going to be at much of a disadvantage if you only have chaotic weapons and not Drygors. The Frost Dragons have extremely low defense against melee, and they also have relatively low health, and they're spread apart quite a bit, so it's not going to be a huge upgrade of using Drygors against chaotics. You'll be just fine using chaotics. Also, I'm wearing a Tetsu helm. Don't ask why, it was just the only helm that I had in my bank other than Malevolent, so I decided to wear it. Also, Charming Imp is great if you do have one, if you didn't spend all your tokens on buying chaotic melee. In my inventory, I have super anti-fire potions. You don't need these, they're very nice to have. However, if you don't have the Hurdler level to make them, you can pray Mage, and it will negate most of the Dragon Fire Breath, and then you can just bring a bunch of food, and you should be fine. I also have a Spring Cleaner. However, the Frost Dragons do not drop very many metal weapons or armor, so it doesn't matter too much if you don't have one of these. And then finally, if you don't have a yak, just make sure that you're bringing magic no paper in order to note the bones so that you don't have to bank very often. Okay, so I did spend 1 hour killing Frost Dragons, and the reason why everything on my screen is in French is because I was in a French world, because it was the only world that I could find that didn't have people at Frost Dragons. So the major downside of Frost Dragons is they can get extremely crowded, since they are one of the better money-making methods that does not require very high stats in order to do it. Really, the only major thing in order to do Frost Dragons is 85 DG, and nothing else is that difficult to achieve for killing the Frost Dragons. Melee stats are pretty easy to get, so that's not too big of a deal. However, if you can find an empty world and you do want to camp these for quite some time in order to make money, you will be rewarded quite well, as you'll see when I price check the Frost Dragons. But anyway, this is about how you do it. They have, again, hardly any health, hardly any defense, like I said. And even if you don't have the super antifires, you can just pray Mage and reduce most of that Dragon Fire damage, and you'll be fine. So good luck killing Frost if you decide to do it. It's a great, solid way of making money. Okay, now we go into the Airuts, and right off the bat you can see that they have significantly higher requirements than the Frost do, and this is the major problem with them. But also, you can be assigned Airuts as Slayer tasks. Airuts are the best Slayer XP in the entire game if slaying correctly, and I'll point you guys towards a video that will show you how to kill them, that method, in just a second here. But first of all, you do need 92 Slayer in order to kill them. You also need to have 90 attack and Drygors. I would not recommend killing them with anything less than that. If you try to kill them with lower tier weapons than 90, you're going to really struggle with accuracy. You might struggle with accuracy even with level 90 weapons just because their defense is extremely high. You also need to have at least 70 prayer and piety unlocked. If you don't have that, you're, again, really going to struggle with accuracy quite a lot, and it's not going to be fun. Of course, Turmoil is recommended, but Piety is still pretty decent if you don't have 95 prayer. And then if you don't have Soul Split, you're going to need a lot of food, which is going to suck, but you can pray, range, or melee and negate a lot of that damage. The XP per hour is 460k if doing it the method shown in this video. I want to be very clear about this. Now, before we move on, I do have to say that there is a better way to kill Airuts. However, it's not as good money. There is a way that you can kill them using a Bone Crusher and Demon Horn Necklace, and then you don't have to bring a yak. You can bring a familiar that will greatly help out your killing speed of the Airuts. If you want to know how to kill the Airuts the fastest way, and you're not worried about maximizing your profit, there's going to be a link on screen and in the description for a video telling you how to do that. So the gear I use when I'm killing Airuts, when I'm banking the bones anyway, is as follows. Again, I'm just using bandos because when I'm banking the bones, I only single target Airuts, so the defense isn't incredibly important. Also, remember that Airuts drop a ton of sharks, so that you should be able to heal yourself. However, if you're really worried about it, you can bring a few food. Also, I do have my Penance Aura. I would really recommend using my Penance Aura at the Airuts. However, if you don't have a Penance Aura, or if your Penance Aura is on cooldown, just make sure that you bring quite a few prayer potions in your yak or in your war tortoise or whatever, because you will need them. Again, same principle with the Airuts that it is with the frost dragons. If you do not have yaks, then you can just use magic note papers in order to note the bones, and that can work fairly well as well. And then on top of that, I just have extreme potions. You can bring supers if you don't have extremes, and then a bunch of prayer pots in order to use turmoil and soul split, or if you don't have turmoil and soul split, then piety and protect range or protect melee. The spring cleaner is quite good here, so if you do not have a spring cleaner, make sure that you're bringing either alch runes or that you're bringing magic note papers, because they do drop a ton of rune plate bodies, rune plate legs, as well as rune spears, so it's really good to collect all of those so that you can profit off of them. Okay, so once again, I killed the Airuts for 1 hour as well as the frost dragons, and I managed to get, well, you'll see how much money I managed to get in just a second. But one thing that was really unfortunate about the Airuts is when you're not on Slayer task, which I was on Slayer task in this video, but I was not wearing a Slayer helm, so I didn't get any bonus damage or anything from the Slayer task. So it's no different than killing them off of task in terms of kill speed anyway, is that you have to kill them on the Airut Peninsula, which is just by the Piscatoris Hunter area, which is unfortunate because they're really spread out on this peninsula. They're much closer packed together in the Curdles dungeons. That's the main reason why I would never kill these off of task, but it's still pretty good XP even off of task, and I could see someone that's going for 120 attack or strength or one of those melee combat skills in order to kill Airuts. I imagine that God Wars Dungeon is probably your best bet, solo God Wars Dungeon fast spawn instances, if you're looking to train your melee stats. However, if you're not into that for whatever reason, Airuts are still a really nice alternative, and again, you can kill them faster if you just don't want to bank the bones. It does speed up the process by quite a bit. However, banking the bones is what I used to be all about when I was cheap and doing these tasks, and I imagine some of you are going to feel the same way. You want to make sure you're making every single last GP that you can when killing your creatures, and I can't really blame you for that because everyone needs GP. So, again, 1 hour of Airuts wrapped up fairly easily, and it went well. So first of all, we'll price check everything that I got from Frost. This is everything, so it's mostly the Frost Dragon bones and not really a whole lot else, and 3.5 mil an hour? Dang, son! So again, there is not really a whole lot of supply costs involved with the Frost Dragons. For me at least, it was really only yak scrolls and then potions, and then I guess charges on the Drygors as well, but not a whole lot of supply costs involved, so that's almost completely 100% profit. That is really good money. The only challenge with Frost Dragons, of course, is finding an empty world, which can definitely be a challenge and is not to be overlooked. Now it's time to see how the Airuts hold up to the Frost Dragons, and unfortunately the Airut bones are not worth anywhere near what the Frost Dragon bones are, but I was hoping that all the rest of the stuff, all the Adior, coal, the bars, all sorts of noted stuff, would be a big advantage for the Airuts, and 3.2 mil an hour is really good. Obviously not quite as good as the Frost, however the XP and charms are quite a bit better at Airuts, so that's one thing to keep in mind. And also, for a monster that's not necessarily known as great money, or at least not nearly as widely known as the Frost Dragons are, that's very, very good cash. That's about what you'd make at most of those mid-tier to lower high-tier money-making methods. There's not a whole lot of things that you can do in the game that are better than 3.2 mil an hour, and considering how much XP that you're getting as well, that's quite impressive from the Airuts. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Also, make sure to leave down in the comments your suggestions for what you would like to see next, and I will probably be choosing something that is more mid-tier money making because I have been getting a lot of requests for that. So if you could suggest things, that would be great, and I'll pick one and you'll be featured in the next video if your comment is chosen. That's going to do it for me though. I got to go work on Iron Man, priorities of course. I'll see you guys in a couple days with the next video. Farewell.